Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Jeff, for joining us today. Excited to have you on.
Yeah, man.
We are also joined by Ken, who was on an episode back, Kenya Clark. Funny story how he got on here. And Jeff, I think you'll appreciate this. For everyone who's listening, this is the real Jeff Evans, and we're going to get to learn a good amount about him today. And the reason Ken's here is because he actually blackmailed me and threatened me that if he set this up, he
Nice.
needed to be on so he could ambush you with some questions he's not been able to ask. So
That's funny.
that's why Kenya is here. And
Yeah, I can't wait to hear those questions.
Oh gosh, like three. You won't get
Oh,
bombarded too hard.
all right.
so that's good. And then, of course, we have Aaron as well. How are you doing, man?
Hey, I'm doing great. Good morning, guys.
Cool.
Morning. Well,
So,
afternoon.
yeah, what part of the country are you in? You're in East Coast, right?
Florida.
Okay. So it's
Yeah.
warm there.
Oh, big time. It's getting like crazy hot, and then we got the hurricane season that just started, so a lot of rain.
All right.
Elsa or something just came through there, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it went, I'm on the east coast of Florida, so it came under, and we barely got any rain, which was great. So enjoyed the weekend last weekend when the West Coast was getting all the rain.
Lucky. Yeah, we got poured
Yeah.
on.
So one thing that I thought was kind of cool this morning, so we're starting a bit later, and I actually, after thinking about it for a bit, there's kind of a cool piece to that, right? Because here we have four gentlemen, all with pretty chaotic, crazy, filled lives, and yet all of us were able to prioritize sitting down to have this conversation. Somewhere I saw this thing called a chaotic capacity, and I was like, here we are, just plugging these things in. And speaking of plugs, kind of transitioning to a little bit about you. So you have a business, a podcast, a family, and a bunch of other stuff going on.
Yeah.
And I was kind of spying on you a little bit, doing a little bit of snoop to just have an understanding of who I'm talking to. And I saw you wearing a sweatshirt. And on the sweatshirt it said, "Rock bottom is where your foundation is built."
Yep.
And I couldn't help but think that there might be a story behind that helps us, kick off in a direction of like, who are you and what's going on?
Gotcha. Yeah, I haven't. It's funny. I haven't worn that sweater in a while. Actually, when I first got it done, I did that photo shoot, and I just keep it in the closet because like that's just a little one of one that just reminds me of like where I came from. But so I'll rewind about it's almost 2 years now from the current job I have. But the company I worked for, it was a meal prep company. I moved over here on the east coast of Florida from home after basically I lost everything for the first time. I owned a gym, CrossFit gym. Basically, I was trying to retire from CrossFit as an athlete. All the money I was making on sponsorships start going away because they want you to produce. And I started focusing on my entrepreneurship journey. That didn't go as planned because I was basically 1 foot in, 1 foot out on my athletic career and the business. And it just didn't have that foundation. And it just crumbled. So I ended up losing a lot of money selling, my ownership of the gym to my partner for pennies on the dollar, and moved here, worked for a meal prep company, one of my good friends at the time, and helped him. Like we ended up expanding to a ton of gyms all over Florida. And then we also launched nationwide shipping. So we were one of the first to have vacuum sealed meals. It was almost, I think it was like a $700,000 machine that vacuum seals it. Going through that whole process, it was just a grind and a journey. And I'm a workhorse. And I love that type of just putting in that long day's work and just feeling good about myself. Like we're one step closer to making that big break, just really killing it. But coming to the end of that, basically mismanaging money and things just not on the back end, just focusing on financially, the business fell apart. So I ended up losing that job and going 6 weeks with no work. I had like $1,500 to my name. We just found out my fiance, she was pregnant. So now I got my first child on the way, moving in with her brother, living in a little 10 by 10 room. She's pregnant, can't work at all. She's in real estate. She's about to retire now and really focus on my daughter. But had that going on. She's constantly throwing up every day, every second. Like it was rough on her. And then now I have 6 weeks of no work. So for me, always from college on, like I played college football. as soon as I finished, I started personal training. Like I've worked up to that point. So like almost 10 years of nonstop work and just putting in, time on my craft and making decent money, working towards my goal. Cause my family, where I come from, we don't have much. So like, that's always been one of the big motivating factors for me to just keep plugging away and getting after it to hit that level. So my family can see like what success is and like, it just takes time to get there.
Jeff, I have a quick question for you.
Yeah.
We found this to be a theme for a lot of the guests and people we've talked to in our world, is that they've come from nothing. I think Ken gave a similar story where not nothing in the sense that you didn't have, good maybe mentors or people in your life and things, but it isn't certainly what your reality you're used to right now or what you're trying to achieve. You don't have really a context for great entrepreneurial success.
Yeah.
And yet you're trying to achieve that. Right. So where does that come from?
So looking at how I grew up, like my dad, he's a barber. He still is. He has his own business, I think 12, 13 years now. Watching him work 12 to 14 hours a day on his feet, cut people's hair. Like after school, we would go up there and just sit up there all day and watch him work, connect with people, laughing, talking about different things. And then my mom, she worked 2 to 3 jobs all the time, but she was on like that lower income side where paycheck to paycheck, like we're really struggling, dealing with roaches in the house and like all kinds of stuff like that. People selling drugs next door, downstairs, because we had like, it was basically upstairs, downstairs, but it's one little hallway to get into your unit. But that's kind of the lifestyle I saw growing up. So everybody was either hustling or struggling, or a combination of the two, and getting nowhere. And so I guess the foundational part is I grew up with depression a lot because my parents got divorced when I was young. When I was 13, I remember crying, like I just in my head and just, in my feelings at the time. I remember going in the bathroom and I thought I locked the door. I sat on the toilet and just sitting there crying. And I had a piece of clothing and I started to strangle myself like I was done. And luckily my stepdad actually walked in. I thought I locked the door, but he didn't. He opened the door, he ran in, snatched it off of me. And I don't know, from that point on, it just like something clicked. And I've just like my trajectory on life is just like, I need to get out of here. I need to show everybody else what it looks like to put in that work and become successful. And I've gotten lucky with, had a coach who really worked with me in high school. And then when I got to college, I had a couple of mentors that kind of guided me. And the same thing when I got into CrossFit, I had people here and there that really like connected with me, like client wise. They would tell me like one of them owns a lumber company, making millions of dollars. So like I got to see more of that lifestyle, like what they're doing. And you don't have to make money just in sports. So like all of that, data that I'm pulling in and just constantly seeing and get that, I guess, what's the word I'm thinking of? That confirmation that your body, your body doesn't have to be. And that's like where we come from is track, football, basketball. And like, that's your only way out, or you're selling drugs. And I got family members, siblings that, still being dumb and doing the same thing. But like, once I saw that, it was game over. Cause like, you can't unsee that stuff. Like once it's more out there, as long as you keep plugging away, you're like that much closer. One more connection, one more cell might get you to that next point. Like you can't unsee that type of stuff, and it becomes addicting to a certain point, and like you can't stop.
Yeah, you can't.
So your slogan that rock bottom is the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like that's very much the kind of the birth of your story, right? You kind of like you kind of came to the end of yourself like, I got a choice here. And I could be honest about where the roads are going either way.
Mm-hmm.
And which one do I want to do?
Exactly. And I feel like a lot of people don't take ownership of their life. Like I got a couple of buddies on social media. I don't know if y'all know Sherman Merrick's, but he has a tough upbringing and stuff like that, single mother household, like, but to see him now, like he took ownership of his life and he's just busting his ass in every way possible to be a great husband, great father, great business owner, entrepreneur, like all these different things. Like I have a similar background, different in, you know, certain parts of it, but to see somebody like that coming from a similar situation, like there's no reason I can't do that. So I need to find a way to build my foundation. And, you know, a part of that whole slogan is brick by brick. Like each and every day, I don't care if it's one thing you putting into your craft or your mindset or whatever you're doing. If you're putting that one brick down each day, as long as you lay it perfect, it's going to add up over time.
Yeah. So you said a lot about the depression aspect of it. And like, to be quite honest, I mean, PTSD and depression, like in this guy right here. And how did you deal with that? You know, how did you get past that point to go on to play college football, you know, get in the CrossFit space, be successful at that, you know, have multiple business ventures, you know, how did you have the will to keep doing that stuff?
So I think ninth grade, I started working out because I was depressed, and that just really just 2 or 3 times a day I'm working out, and it just felt like a great release. So that was my way out, to get away from all the drama from family stuff and all that. Like that was how I coped with all the stuff that was going on. So like I was like 140 pounds ninth grade. I finished at 195 senior year. So I put on a lot of weight. I was like, you know, put a ton of time in my craft. I ran a 4.3, 4.40. I was, you know, track guy, and, you know, ended up fortunately getting a football scholarship. I played senior year at receiver. But looking at it from that aspect, like fitness gave me that outlet to like focus on something bigger than, you know, what was around my situation. Because I've seen people going to college, like Philip Buchanan, he played for the Raiders, cornerback. Deion Sanders, he's from my hometown. Javon Curse, like seeing all these big stars like make it out and just killing it, making money. So that was my focus, is get a football scholarship, go to the NFL. The other part of that is the work ethic that I got from my parents, just watching them like put in the hours. It doesn't matter if they're working. Like I said, my mom worked 3 jobs sometimes. She'd come in, sleep for a couple hours, and then go right back out and, you know, be on her way doing her thing just to provide. So I think a combination of those 2 things was a great, like, it's hard to teach people work ethic. Like a lot of people just don't have that, like that dog mentality. Like, I don't care what it takes. Like, we just going to get it done.
Yeah.
You know, and to back when I was talking about that story, when after the meal prep company fell apart, you know, after the 6 weeks of not working, that made me even more hungry, because I don't want my daughter to see this lifestyle. Like, I cannot. And even to this day, like, that's why I'm working so hard, because she needs to have the opportunities I didn't have. But I ended up picking up a bouncing job. I'm a big guy, but I've never bounced in my life. A roofing job, laying roofing tile. And I still, to this day, I have the videos of me on the roof just showing everybody what I was doing that day. Like these 40-pound clay tiles, you know, clay roofs, roof tile. We're literally 12 to 15 pallets of them. It's like a couple hundred on each pallet, loading them up from the bottom, bringing them all the way on the roof, walking them up. And then also landing a job at Enterprise, because I needed that corporate training and sales and customer service. So I was working 3 jobs and getting 2, 3, 4 hours of sleep, living on 4 or 5 Bang energy drinks, eating canned chili on my breaks while I was on the roof, like literally like rock bottom, like just no pride, no ego. Like, I got to reset, and like I got to do it in a happy way. Like, I'm happy to be working, because I went that 6 weeks without, and that's really what kicked like the mindset. Like, I've always had a tough, like, you know, relentless mindset, but when I lost everything and got had my daughter on the way, like that really set me off to, like, I don't care if I got to work 24 hours in a day, like, we're going to make it happen.
It's really hard to become indomitable in the pursuit of something without walking through hell and having some heck of a powerful motivator in front of you. You know? So like coming from that background, and then like, I'm going to be a father. Yeah, that's the concoction. That's either you're going to quit and be a loser, or you're going to, you know, saddle up and get after it. And you've chose to get after it path. And I can't help but think, man, that's a hardcore way to go to end it, right? With a piece of clothing on the toilet. But I'm sure glad your stepdad walked in and we're able to have conversations like this in spite of moments of darkness.
I do a lot of reflection, like, well, because I'm a pharmaceutical rep now. I drive around a lot. So like I would do a lot of reflecting, and to this day, that moment pops in my head, and it's like he could have been off random doing something else, watching TV, walking out the door, like, but somehow he found his way going to the bathroom. Like, it's nuts to me that it happened in that order. I always feel like I feel like I'm in a movie right now because of all the shit I went, excuse my language, all the stuff I went through. It does. Like, you see those Rocky movies and all with an intense struggle, and then you see them fall off even more, and then they make it out. It's just, that's how I feel right now. I'll keep looking back because I'm so focused on the process. I keep looking back every few months and just like, dang, I was here and now I'm here.
Yeah.
It's super motivating to have gone through that and see where I'm at now, just to keep me going.
Well, and looking at that, I just want to I'm realizing I'm connecting the dots, right? I'm looking at, Ken sitting here and you're sitting here, and I'm realizing that some things about myself. And I think that's the power of these conversations, right? Like, my parents got divorced at a young age too. I'm realizing that I think that I was pretty severely depressed. Fitness is one of the first things that helped me begin climbing out of that. And I took the path of trying to destroy everything around me. But with fitness, I could start turning that anger constructively towards destroying myself. And I'm significantly less impressive than either of you guys in the gym, so I will accept no challenges. But looking at all that, it's like, okay, there's some similarities I'm seeing, and I can't help but think it's once all those factors come together and you just make the choice, no, I have a vote. I have a vote in how my life's going to live. I'm going to take ownership of this. The second you make that choice, the growth starts. Yeah. And from that point forward, it doesn't matter the obstacles. It doesn't matter how hard it gets. You start climbing, right? And you start getting better at it, and you may get knocked down bad. But that's the conversation we're talking about. And if I understand correctly, so you have that upbringing that fuels everything. You build something up, you start building up this meal prep business, crashes and burns. You're pursuing athletics, your fiance is pregnant, and you're now working 20 hours a day, just working like a dog, trying to get things done, grateful. And go for it, Aaron. Well, I was just going to say, short of whatever Aaron was going to say, it sounds like all that kind of makes this soup that makes up you. And now we're seeing some of the flavor come out of that after you've been working at that for a while, and we're starting to see some success and some victories. What is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, because like I said before, like hitting that rock bottom place, like your ego, like it's out the door. Like it's survival, and like what really matters to you, you need to put it, like, make it happen. And we never went without food, but the lifestyle I see for my daughter, like, I want to make sure she sees that. But like seeing my mom work 3 jobs, never hearing her complain once. Like, she just made it happen. Like I said, she'll come home, sleep for a couple hours, leave again. My dad, same thing. He actually enjoyed what he did. Doesn't matter if he's working 12, 13, 14 hours, whatever. Like, they didn't complain about it. And that's one of the big things I adopted. And I also knew, like, I had an ego, even though I'm not very outspoken on like social media stuff, and I'm getting better at it because I want people to know who I am more and more, in the mindset that it took to get here. But back in my early CrossFit days, because I was so good so early, like, I always had that edge, like that ego that was sitting on my shoulders, and it wasn't in a good way. So to hit, build up, I borrowed $50,000 from a mentor. Actually, last year I finally paid him off because I wanted to make sure I make that right. But borrowed 50 grand, opened a gym, fell apart. Moved and all the way across state to restart. Helped build up the meal prep company, fell apart. So like, it's just like I'm seeing success, but then it's just all taken away, and it's out of my control for the most part. But just not letting those experiences define me, and that ego being attached. Like, I remember sitting in the back before I started my shift, bouncing at the nightclub. I remember sitting, looking up at the sky, and just saying, like, I enjoy being in this moment because it's creating a person like I know I need to be to make the type of money I want to make, the opportunities I want to be able to provide for my daughter. Like, I'm being created right now, no matter how like little of sleep I'm getting. Like, like I'm in the process of molding the Jeff that I know I'm supposed to be. Like, it's just so crazy. Like, literally, I was sitting there. I remember just like having that conversation with myself, and now it's like I cannot stop because it's so hard to get momentum going. And when you do, most people will think like, all right, I'm seeing a little bit of progress, but it's not where I see like the top level. So they end up stopping. Like, all right, I'll just put that to the side and come back later. Like, you got to just keep plugging away brick by brick.
Yeah, that's kind of like what we put out these things called tiered thoughts every Thursday, and I'll sit back and reflect and write, about what happened that week, or we listen to our athletes about what they did right or did wrong, or what their mental space looked like, and we just I keep a notepad on my laptop just full of them. And this week we talked about being in like the crash zone and like people thinking about why me, why is this happening? That is completely irrelevant. The thing is that it is happening, and you need to focus on the how will I, or how do I get past this thing? How do I do it? If you sit there in the crash zone, the ocean, for so long, that's the most dangerous place the riptide is. You either go out into the ocean or you go back to the shore. You have to make that choice, and you chose to go into the ocean. And that's a common theme I've seen between like a lot of people's stories, like you, Jared Enderton. I'd had the opportunity to speak to Matt Frazier, like same stories. They're the same, and, kudos to you, gentlemen. You're doing great.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I really believe that people get stuck on attaching their experiences with their identity. And you're not supposed to do that. It's so backwards. Like, so another example, like what I went through when I was about 4 or 5 years old, I was a babysitter. Like, I was sexually assaulted, molested, but that's the experience. So I understand like how to take care of my daughter from here on out. Or like what I went through with my suicide attempt or depression, like that doesn't define me. For so long, like I was like in my mind, like I'm that quiet, depressed kid. Like I work out really good, and I just everything, like those few instances, like, or experiences, that's who I was. So I never voiced my opinions. Like, I just stayed quiet all the time. But like, I realized like that's not who I want to be. And that's like, I'm naturally not that person. So now I need to focus on creating the Jeff that I know I really want to be, like my full expression.
Jeff, when I was gonna mention earlier too, and this, you guys mentioned this so well, is that when you take those experiential things and you, like you said, attach meaning to them, it can be really dangerous because there's going to be a couple choices you could make. The easy way, I would say, is the one that just goes right to self-defeat. And I can't do this. I'm paralyzed. And see, this is why I don't try anything. And I'm just going to go back to this. I'm just going to go back to this remedial life where I never get challenged anymore. And I don't have to deal with these really hard thoughts on failure over and over again. Or is it, maybe you should start ascribing to the fact that there's a conspiracy happening, that you're actually this really great person that's in training. And the hell that you're going through,
Jesus.
the hell you're going through feels to me it has to be as intense as the greatness you're going to become. And it's funny, the stories I hear and you've heard from these guys is that it was hard, then it got harder, then it got really hard, then it got harder than I could absolutely imagine, and then it was a little bit harder than that. And
that's it's
oh my God, pinned down on the ground. And then it's a lot of times that you hear the depression and even the end of life scenario because it's that hard. Like the mind can't handle it until finally something comes where you break and say, I'm going to start getting on the journey. And you realize, oh, that was preparing me. That very moment was showing me that I had to have enough attack in my life to make me fight back harder than I've ever fought back before. And you become this new person.
Yeah. And I 100% agree with that because like the journey I'm on now, like I'm pharmaceutical rep, full-time job with dad now, but I also started my supplement company, and the vision I see with the product that we created and the products down the line, like I know we can be a 9-figure business, and the Jeff 2 years ago wouldn't have been able to handle that. You know, and look, even before that, back when I was competing heavy in CrossFit Games, regionals, all that stuff, like I had zero business acumen. Like my foundation for an entrepreneur was terrible. Like I don't deserve being at that level right now. Like I need to earn my way there, whether it falling apart, losing everything like I did, like doesn't matter what needs to happen, but it needs to mold me into that person and open my eyes up to where like I'm focused on the process of growing myself and the company. So like I really really see how a lot of people get stuck in that mindset of like this happened to me instead of happened for me.
I think it's like attributed to people not knowing what doing something hard is, like what something like truly doing something that is difficult. You know you're gonna fail, but you keep doing it until you don't fail. I remember in like 2015, I just come back from Afghanistan, and I was like, you know what? I want to be one of the dudes that was at Camp Brown. Like, I want to be a Green Beret. I want to be Special Forces, da da da. So I trained up for like 6 months, went to SFAS, ended up getting to the end of it, and I thought that was going to kill me. Like I got there the last day of team week. They're like, okay, you have this undisclosed distance ruck march or whatever, and you're like going through Camp McCall's rolling hills and sand, and just it was December. It was so cold, and I just remember this guy next to me, because when you're there, it's not really a function of you doing it alone. You have to do it together, you know, and that's a big thing with society, like learning that somebody out there knows something more than I do. Let me talk to that person and get that knowledge. And they kind of beat that in our heads. And I had this buddy that was just rucking with me. I think I had like an 80-pound ruck on, and we were, from what I can understand, the sun had went down. We started rucking, and the sun had came up. So we were rucking for about 10, 11 hours. And I think we were about 30, 40 miles in. And they're like, the pace guy is behind you. One of the Green Beret instructors is behind you. And he's like, if you get behind me for more than 2 minutes, you're done. And I was like, all right, cool. I'm just going to stay right in front of this guy. And my buddy was like, dude, I just can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. I'm like, dude, just keep walking. Just keep, like, it can only get better. Like, it can't get any worse than, it's like, it can't get any worse than me, you know, having to just keep walking. Like, I already can't feel my legs. But the whole purpose of it is that he stopped, and I kept begging him to keep going, and I just kept walking. The instructor stopped him, put him on the back of a truck, told him to wait beside the road, and then he told me that I'm done and told me to get an LMTV, big armored vehicle, whatever we use to transport people. And I was like, you know, shoot, I failed. Oh my gosh, this actually happened. Like, I did all this to like go and failed. There was never a distance that they had put in their heads. They were just watching you suffer. That's the crazy part. They were just watching you walk and move and see where your attitude towards it. Yeah, I just kept and I attribute that to like a lot of like the things in my life, and I see that in your stories, like in your life, like you just keep going. Like Dory, just keep swimming, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. Eventually, you'll get to Australia. But yeah, man, that's
I agree, man. It's like I said, it's funny that people don't get like consumed by the process. They focus on end goals so much. Like you have to put that work in. Like if you want to speak Spanish at some point, you got to put the day-to-day in to learn how to speak Spanish.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Whatever the goal is, like it's so mind-blowing. And it's crazy to say that because like all the stuff I've done in the past that failed is because I was trying to skip the process. My foundation wasn't set.
Well, it's interesting because I think what we're all talking about here, you know, whether it's brick by brick, step by step, keep swimming, and then focusing on the end goal is I think when most people, I know definitely myself and from this conversation, all of us, when we see something we want, right, and we're like, okay, we're going to go get this, we mistake that desire for entitlement to the end result. And that's like one of the new things, like when you start doing this type of stuff, that's the mistake, you know, like one of the things you learn really quickly when life and the pursuit just crushes your soul and grinds it into the ground, right? But then when you're humbled and like you show a significant amount of self-awareness, Jeff, when you're talking about like, I can see where this business could go way beyond what I believe my capabilities are, and I have to be molded into someone who can handle that. With that type of mindset, I believe with every fiber of my being, it's going to be a 10-figure business, and it's going to keep going beyond what you're doing because you're pursuing the process and not the end state or the success. And where I think that's so stinking valuable is I just saw this quote the other day, and I truly believe it. Everyone thinks they're entitled to the work, but we're not. I mean, everyone thinks we're entitled to the fruit. Yeah, to the fruit of the work, to the success, to the goal. But we aren't entitled to anything except the hard work and the day-to-day grind. All we are entitled to is the pursuit of becoming better, right?
Yep.
You're talking about yourself going through the forge. You know, that's what I'd call it. You were in the forge, just you're applying pressure and heat and hammering yourself into a better man, going through that, and you're continually looking for, how do I hone myself and become stronger, better, faster, sharper, more experienced? And it's like, that's what you're entitled to. That pursuit, that work. That's it, right? And there's something beautiful about that. It's freeing in my mind, when I realized it's like, I don't care about the success. All I want is the work and to get better. Those two things. I want to burn off the parts of me I hate, so that a little bit more of anything that might be decent in me can survive, and that becomes more who I am, right?
Yep.
That's it. And I think that's what we're talking about.
So Jeff, I'm curious. So you've broken through a lot of ceilings in your life, and even comparatively against other athletes, you've surpassed them. We've talked a lot about, like, what metrics really drive you, and even to this day, how do you kind of fight apathy so you don't find yourself in a way where you're kind of just being an average Jeff? How do you make Jeff still fight to be a better Jeff every day? What does that look like?
So like I mentioned earlier, I do a lot of driving. So reflecting, I listen to a lot of podcasts to bring even more perspective on whether it's life, emotions, business. Like I'm constantly trying to learn and understand things I don't know. So when I get put in that situation, like I can figure out a plan and attack. Like that's kind of how my brain works. Like I like to re-engineer things in my head. So if 9 figures is my goal, like right now we're setting all the foundational stuff on our website with email marketing, our campaign flows and all that stuff, manufacturing, like I'm setting it up so it's more streamlined. Another thing is like my daughter, like that's enough motivation right there, period. Because I have a blended family. So I'm one of those rare people that had 3 dads. So my biological dad, who I didn't know, he passed away in 2015. My dad that raised me, and then my stepdad. And both of them have a ton of kids. It's 18 total of us. So, yeah, and they all didn't live in the same house, but at one time we might have like 7 or 8, you know, when we were at my mom's house on weekends and stuff, with, you know, all the custody stuff and whatnot. But going through all that and knowing that it's so many kids in the house and nobody's teaching them all the stuff I'm learning right now, I get a chance to teach my daughter that. And like, that's motivating as hell, because when she hits, you know, 9, 10, 11 years old, she's going to understand the stock market. So like me, I'm constantly learning, listening to videos, like I'm actually applying it and seeing the gains from it. Or real estate. My girl's in real estate. We're about the townhouse we're in now, we're going to rent it out next year and buy a property, that, you know, actual house with a little bit of land. So like having her understand all those types of things, like I need to know as much as possible. So when she's of age to start consuming this stuff, she's going to be a beast when she's like ready to go out on her own. Like that's one of the biggest drivers. Like I need her to be a caring person, a loving person, a giving person, but not to the point where people can take advantage of her, because I've taught her tons of lessons that I've went through.
Yeah, I wish that 30-year-old me could go back and kick 20-year-old me right in the teeth. like I mean, just knock myself completely out and be like, what was that from? Hey, in 2013, I don't need you to do this one thing. Oh, cool, I'll not do that thing.
Yeah, so now I get to pass those lessons down. Like my girl, she's big on like being in tune, like having a high EQ and just understanding emotions and all that stuff. I'm terrible at that, because I was taught to sit down, shut up, boys don't have feelings, like stop crying. Literally, that's how I grew up, and I was always a quiet guy. Everywhere I went, I just sit back and observe people, and like if they're talking too much, I know something's going on where they haven't dealt with it in their life, and they're just trying to cover that up with being like, you know, the crazy fun guy or whatnot, like little things like that. So like now we both get a chance. Like I'm helping my girl, like she has different like insecurities and stuff, and I'm giving her a little bit of my like mindset, and she's giving me something to be more like relaxed and like just open about and honest about how I feel. So I feel like that's probably the biggest thing I can, like the biggest thing that keeps me going is having that ability down the road to give her everything I didn't have.
There's something powerful there that I really want to highlight a little bit, but it's the power of being a human being, right? Like,
Yeah.
not just a robot. Like if you're a robot, IQ matters, strength matters, right? But if you're a
Mm-hmm.
human being, emotional intelligence, self-awareness, learning matters. And like one of the things I just realized too is every single person like you or Ken or us who want to create these things desire to continue learning. Like continue learning is one of the fundamental building blocks of this type of mentality in person. Like if you don't want to learn more, you're not going to none of the other stuff's going to come together, because learning is critical. And yeah, just to encourage, like if you feel like you shouldn't have emotions or you shouldn't talk about them or you shouldn't dig into the hell that is your own mind, to start realizing the torments and the things you've gone through so that you can get healthy and not mistake your identity with your experiences, right? You can start undoing that damage. That's wrong. You got to give yourself the freedom to say, no, I'm going to have to learn how to feel, maybe, right?
Yep.
It's funny, before you jumped on, I was joking with Ken specifically because I've been lifting for over 15 years and kind of like a Neanderthal, just like, just in a garage gym by myself, hurting myself. Like that's all I've ever done. Right. And then all of a sudden it's like, I've done some silly challenges and I've hurt myself more than the Army hurt me and all these different issues. And like Ken comes along, he's like, yeah, well, you're doing 10,000 things wrong with this lift and this lift and that lift. And I'm like, all right.
Like, what?
Yeah. And I'm like, so this morning I did some overhead squat work just to start fixing some of those issues. And I was telling Ken, I was like, hey, I've killed the ego here. I've killed the pride. I'm willing to pay the tuition fees of being a beginner so that I can hit the goals I want to 5 years from now, even though I think I've should know more being 15 years in. And there's something powerful to that. And that's the reason I bring that up, is because you made a comment earlier about, hey, if it goes to 9-figure business, you don't care if you lose everything, if that gives you the lessons to do it successfully the next time.
You can figure it out then.
Yeah,
you figured out.
It's the power of, I don't care how far I am. I don't care if I lose every single thing. I can then reapply all those lessons to get after it, and actually succeed that time. And that is a cool philosophy. That is a cool mindset to hone in on.
I heard something.
Go ahead.
I heard something really, really cool the other day. I was watching a documentary on Nipsey Hussle, and like if you looked at like where he came from and what he was able to do and change his life and give back to like Compton the way he was able to, and Crenshaw, was like amazing. He said, if you didn't learn something new in a day, you've wasted 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
You might as well have just stayed in bed and not done anything.
Exactly. I feel like the more people are exposed to, the more like their mind starts opening up to what's possible. Mm-hmm. Like if I would have, all the stuff I know now about investments and real estate stocks, about the pharmaceutical industry, like when I graduated college, I didn't know this was an option. You just have to have a bachelor's degree. One of my buddies been in it for 6-7 years. And he was like, look, if you go to Enterprise and get a job there, you have a chance because they want you to have that corporate training, that corporate sales and customer service training. So when I lost everything, that's the first thing I did. And just so happened that Enterprise just had somebody quit and they opened it up. And I landed a position just by basically telling them my story. Like I was open and honest. Like I'm a big believer in leading with my story to get people to understand like who I am. And I feel like that wipes a lot of the doubt away. Like I'm going to work my ass off for you if you give me this opportunity. And that's what I did. And then the company I work for now, they reached out after only 2 months of working at Enterprise. I was top 3 in the Orlando region in sales both months. And they found me, and then I landed this opportunity and been crushing it ever since.
They scalped you.
They recruited you hard.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, well, I'm in the middle of an interview process for a medical device company that looking at the financial side and the potential of the company, like it's even bigger than where I'm at now. So I'm praying I land this.
Yeah. Well, that's good stuff. Well, thank you guys, everyone, for coming and, just reflecting on our conversation. And we've hit some powerful nuggets. I really would love to hear from you, Jeff, some of the fruit that is booming, some of the benefits and successes you are realizing right now in some of these pursuits, right? Because at the beginning we mentioned, not only are you a daddy now, and you have a full-time job, and you're still an athlete in some capacity, even just for yourself, you also have a business you're building and a podcast you're a host on. That's not this show. Would you tell us a little bit about some of that and what that's like for you?
Yeah, so I actually have a bottle right here, and I just got some other samples. So it's called Cerus Performance is the company name. Y'all can go there and check it out. But last year during COVID, I had a random conversation with a buddy, and he was like, "You should start your own supplement company." And I was like, "Wow, if I do it, I need to find something that's not out there." And that's why I created the product Flow, because it's all focused on blood flow, maximizing, like regulating blood pressure, reducing stress, that type of thing. We've tested it, increases VO2 and work capacity. It's like proven third party. And so I got that, and I just see like the big, we didn't talk about this either, but I figured this would come up when I talk about, you know, all the other stuff. But the impact, because of all the stuff I've been through, that's a big like foundational piece for this company. So every month we have 4 nonprofit partners. So it's I don't know if y'all know Operation Underground Railroad.
Mm-hmm.
So I have them, Steve's Club, Specially Fit, which works with, you know, kids that have like Down syndrome or some kind of mental disability, and then Steve, I say Steve's Club.
Yeah.
I'm blanking on the last one. Foster Fit. So they're all focused on kids, and it's because of all the stuff I went through. Like no kid should have to go through that. So that's one of the big reasons, like I want to grow it to this big of company, because my personal goal is to donate $1 million in a year. So it'll be $250,000 per organization that they get in that year, because we do it each quarter. So like that's a huge driver for me. But it's having the foundation set. Like I need to make sure I do everything right, because these kids deserve it, you know?
Well, looking at that, and as we unpeel this, let's make certain we spend the appropriate time, you know, on the business and podcast and some of that. I don't think anyone here wants to shorten that. But what you just hinted at something that I think is critical. You don't care so much about the 9 figures in and of itself for your company. Mm-hmm. Because that's just freedom fuel for the freedom machine, and the freedom machine is your company. The fuel, the money is going to fuel that to get bigger. But your desire to apply your freedom and all of your resources and all of your everything that you have to bear is to help with an ideal you have, which is to make it for your own kid and other kids don't go through what you did. And like we have a pretty good role model in that. I'm sure everyone's heard of Elon Musk. Everything he's doing is for goals for our, you know, for human beings, right? Things he wants to accomplish for us as a planet and as a group of people. And he doesn't care about the money. And there's something you start to see when you really look at the people who are driven in these pursuits, like what you just said. They have a passion in helping someone else and serving. And
having that major impact.
Yeah, and that impact is what their pursuit is. That's the goal. The money's just like it's just freedom fuel. Yeah, but just get it. Yeah, that's beautiful.
So we're coming out with a sleep product, a pro version of this, because we got a lot of athletes that are taking double dose in a day, and they're loving it even more, because, you know, the higher the level you are, the more intense the workouts are and stuff like that. So you need major output. We got immune system, gut health, and then a focus product, nootropic, that we're coming out. All natural, no, you know, bullcrap ingredients, none of that stuff. Like I want people to have their bodies just function on a higher level without adding on this crazy stuff. So yeah, that's what's going on with that. The podcast that we have going on is me and my 2 business partners. It's for us, I feel like it's more of the gift. My business partner, Rob, he's, you know, this dude has tons of knowledge on training and supplements and stuff like that. So it's more of just to get him exposure to where he can take that show over and just, you know, have fun with it. So we're trying to piece together everything, all these little components of the business that helps us get more exposure and all, like, not just for the supplements, but for us personally. Like the impact part is more of my thing. And then, you know, on the back end, my other partner, Wendy, she's more of that like integrator. I don't know if y'all have read the book Rocket Fuel, but like I'm the visionary, she's the integrator, and we just work so perfect together. But that's where her happy place is. And then for him, it's all the training and research and stuff like that. So but yeah, that's all I'm focused on is my main job, growing this to where I can replace that, and then just being a full-time dad and you know, future husband one day.
I just love that you just said that's all I'm focused on. You know, just these like 7 things.
Right.
Goodness. Who's going to say something?
Wait, well, I was going to say, Ken, did you have any like question that you want to pin Jeff down with? Or?
That's the chance.
Oh, yeah, let me see. Dude, I'm really strong. That's about it. That's all I'm probably good for. And like I can row because I rowed in high school a ton.
Okay.
I don't know what else to do. Like, what did you do to like transition that like aerobic piece into like, or the strength piece into like more aerobic stuff?
Gotcha. So it's good you brought that up because he mentioned chaotic capacity earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So 2018 Granite Games, I got 3rd place. I trained 3 months for that. I took 10 months off of CrossFit before those 3 months started. And that chaotic capacity is the reason I got fit enough in that 3 months to be able to compete on that level. Because I'm sure you've seen like all my games and regional stuff. Yeah. I'm a big guy. Like I'm 215, 212, like when I'm competing. And that's like the lowest I can get because I'm just naturally big.
Same.
Yeah, strength stuff, like I can take care of that. It's all focused on conditioning and gymnastics. So I'll do 1 or 2 lifts a week. Like when I'm in full comp mode, like 1 or 2 lifts a week max. The rest is spent on EMOMs, AMRAPs of just body weight and conditioning. And then I will add 3 chaotic capacity workouts, 2 endurance workouts. I know Matt Frazier said that he does this a lot too, where it's like 60 to 90 minutes.
Yeah, I'm just like straight C2 bike.
Yep. Just breathing, swimming, the same thing. Like I'll do intervals for an hour. Like just, 50 meter, 100 meter, whatever it is. Like I'll take certain set breaks and I'm just banging them out. And, bigger, we have more output we need to be able to move the same way they do when they're, 180, 170 pounds. So I would say that was like a perfect combination because I see your lifts like strong as hell. But if you spend more time on those smaller things that actually, like the sport is 80% endurance and capacity.
Yeah.
So it's no need. That 20%, you're already at the top level. Like it's no need to keep working on that. You're not going to lose much. Like it took me, I started working out, like 4 or 5 months ago. And about 45 days in, I hit 405 clean and 300 snatch after having a year off. Like, because I was working so much, like 0 out, bro. So you have that. You're built that way for the strength. So if you spend more time focusing on elevating your heart rate up on different intervals and then hopping in, like one of the workouts I did today, it was reverse Tabata, assault bike at 600 watts, rest the entire time for 20 seconds. As soon as you finish those 8 sets, then go. I was doing 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, 5 rounds of that, and then hop right back on the bike, do it again, hop back on the bike. So it's short little things like that where you're teaching your body how to recover faster and be able to handle that pump. Because I know, like, with pull-ups and handstand push-ups, once your shoulders and triceps and lats are gone, that's it. Yeah. So you need to condition your body to be able to handle that pump and just keep pushing through it.
So all right, your blackmail is fulfilled, Ken.
Yeah, it feels good.
You got your payment.
I feel good.
and what's funny is I'm actually happy listening to, like, I'm very happy listening to that because I'm going to apply it where my weaknesses are. But I remember having a conversation a few weeks back where it's you have to focus. You're only as good as your weakness. You're only as good as what you suck at, right? And if I had to summarize it there, it's if you're blessed like you two are, where you can just pick up a tank and throw it, then you're going to have to spend your time focused on moving that body.
Right.
But if you can only throw the tank once, you know, what good are you?
And then you're done. Useless.
Yeah. Like, what are you good for? Like, I need you to run 2 miles. Like, no.
Yeah, reminds me of that commercial. I pick things up and put them down.
Yeah, I pick things up and put them down.